Hello, welcome everyone to Satsang. I've noticed the late start. I see I just got out of a 3-day retreat that I led under the sponsorship of the Krishnamurti Education Center of Canada, and the director up there, Ralph. And we've done several of these now, and next year there will be a live one, in person, residential. You can actually come and get away for 3 days to beautiful, beautiful grounds. Maybe we can even make it a little bit longer for those that can. I gave this one a title. Just kind of came to me as I was scheduling this. The kingdom of heaven is within. And Christ very famously said, don't say, look there, that the kingdom of heaven doesn't come with observation. It's not something you can see. It's not a location you can point to on a map. That's the idea that, God in his heaven is out there in the universe somewhere, is denied by the originator of what became Christianity. It isn't a place at all. Interestingly enough, the term kingdom of heaven and kingdom of God are in fact synonymous. They're referring to the same thing. But in the Jewish world, the earlier Gospels would use kingdom of heaven because they simply couldn't say the word God. Right? In the Jewish, that word was too holy, it couldn't be said or written. There was other names for God. But the holiest name of God wouldn't be said. And so they would say the kingdom of heaven instead. But it means exactly the same thing. It is the presence of God. It is the abode where God actually lives. Now, if you think of God as a person, right? He's not going to fit in here very well unless he's really, really small, right? And of course, if he fits in here because he's really, really small, he can't be in you. So it's like not just in me. So it can't be referring to the idea of God as a person, as a being that kind of made a bunch of stuff and set us on our individual trek. The nature of what has been called God must be something completely different. Something that can only be discovered by looking within you. This is why I'm such an advocate of self-inquiry, because looking into the nature of yourself is where you find God. I think it was Rumi who said, I went looking for myself and found only God. I went looking for God and found only myself. Now, for many in the Western religions, that's the ultimate blasphemy. I went looking for God and found myself. I went looking for myself and found God. The ultimate of blasphemy. But what it's talking about is that looking for myself, what I find instead is the God of existence itself, that from which everything has emerged, without actually even emerging, without ever losing. It's not that God created something separate from himself, but creation is the very activity of God, and so all creation is God. And the dwelling place, or rather the place where reality is discovered, isn't and can't be out there. The only place you can discover reality is by looking in the one place that you are absolutely certain is real. Now, you can't find reality in the mind because you can't really trust that it's real. We all know our perceptions are limited, they're fragile. We all have cognitive bias, confirmation bias. we all have different kinds of prejudices and views. We don't see things as they are. So we can't look to our perceptions, our experiences, our emotions, our feelings, or any of our sensations for reality. But no matter how deceived I am, no matter how deluded I am, there's one thing that can't be denied, and that is I am. No matter how I might think that is, no matter how that happened or came about, Big Bang or creation or whatever, the only thing I know for absolute certain is that I am. This is the lynch point. This is the center. Right? This is the sense of what is real without anything additional added. This is the place where we look for God. This is the one place where we can find God, and that is definitely within. But this within is not even like inside the body somewhere. We're looking within our own consciousness, our own awareness. We're looking directly at our experience of being. And when somebody like Christ says that the kingdom of God, the dwelling place of God, the Holy of Holies, the inner sanctum, is within you, he must be pointing to that place which is ultimately real. And so when we go to that place within us that we know is real, my own existence, that is God. Your existence is God. That's what Rumi meant. I went looking for myself. I found only God. I went looking for God. I found myself. Because it's right in the same place. The two merge. And you find that there is no you independent of God. There is no you seeking God. There is only that one that we have named God. And it's even an inadequate name. All words can become distorted and diluted over time, and their meaning, their original meaning lost. It's simply a word to point to the ultimate reality. And you know the reality intimately because it's you. No matter how deluded you might be, no matter how many distorted perceptions or false ideas you have, your existence is unquestionable. And if you can take all the rest of that away, all concepts, and be with nothing but your own pure existence, that is God. That is the kingdom of heaven. That is the dwelling place of the Most High. It's that simple. But we don't look there. Our religions don't teach us to look there. Our philosophies don't. Other than Buddhism, which really isn't a religion, Advaita Vedanta, which is not really a religion in the modern sense of the term. They are deep modes of inquiry into the nature of the self. Or even, as you might say, the no-self, because when the self is one and all, you can't say self or not self. All opposites just disappear in just, it is, and I am that. And so you see that your concept of yourself isn't you. It's fleeting. It's one of those things that we accumulate and it changes over time, and it's totally unstable, unreliable. It's just another idea we have. And I can hold a million different ideas of myself. But I have to be myself in order to hold those ideas. I'm prior to any idea I hold of myself. That self is what has been named God, and it is the truth of your being. And folks, the kingdom of heaven I find within me is exactly the same kingdom of heaven you find within you. You and I disappear in that, and there is only this presence. Well, on that note, because I've been discoursing a lot today, I will just say hello to everyone. Welcome. Depending on how I feel, I've been at it for a while, I may We'll see how the questions go. I know if the questions engage me, I'll just keep going again and forget about the time. I had enough time in between the retreat and satsang starting that I could refresh myself, walk outside for a little bit in the sunshine, refresh my tea, my mate, take a nice breath, and hello to everyone. Hello, Roberto in Madrid, and Rosario, also in Madrid. Roberto, funny, I was going to ask you something, but I feel like I know the answer before I come up with the question. So no questions, Your Honor. Very good. I've noticed that happening more frequently for you, Roberto. That a question arises and you're intuiting automatically the answer. Man, your progress has been spectacular, my brother. Robbie in Romania. Hello, Mary. In Niagara Falls, New York. I happen to know that. She didn't write it. Andrew, hi G, struggling to determine whether the people I interact with every day are in some sense real or just figments of my imaginary imagination. Any light you could throw on this would be appreciated. Very good question, and a very important one. So I want to draw a distinction. You know, we're identified as the separate self, and we try to take in this idea of everybody as a projection of myself. It'll be interpreted as a projection of the finite separate self. Okay? In which case nothing exists except me. That's solipsism, and it's not very healthy, right? So in that sense, that's not where this is coming from. That the projection is not coming from you as the person. That the person you believe yourself to be is also part of the projection. And so there's you as a person, and there's got to be a bunch of other people who are persons that you're all interacting. So it's not really a figment of your imagination. Here's the deal. In some sense real or just figments, right? Yes, here's the reality of it. You cannot deny that you are experiencing. And I'm going to use language now, although we don't have to. You experience, plants. I'm looking at trees out there and plants and the like, the sunshine and the sky, right? We experience other people, animals, bugs, birds, also. All sorts of experiences that we have. Now, you can have those experiences, and you don't need to even put a name on them, do you? Right? You don't need a name to have the experience. The experience comes first, and then later on we process it. We give it a name, and we can talk about it, which is really great that we can do that. I mean, a dog or a small child sees the same things we do, right? But they don't have any names for it as of yet. So we're all experiencing some reality, right? It is the nature of what we are experiencing that this self-inquiry is all about. This is what science is all about too, right? Recognizing that it's an appearance. Our perceptions are distorted. Our senses are very limited. They only pick up a fraction of the full range of information that is the universe. And so we do things, we run tests, we try to take things apart, we split atoms and then observe the results to try to determine the nature of the reality, which we're not directly seeing, right? Nobody is directly seeing an atom. We see the effect of them, when you go up multiple levels, through molecules and combinations of molecules and clusters and then cells and organs and all the way up to bodies and stars and all of the kinds of things that are a result of that. But the actual thing out of which it's all made is not known. That's the scientific view. It's looking for a particular particle or something, right, out there that is the ultimate reality, is what is. Right? In Nondual inquiry, we start as I did in the opening discourse. The only thing I know that is real is me. I know I'm real. My experience and the fact that I am experiencing is obviously real. So then the question is, what is my experience made of? The scientist says it's some kind of matter and then goes looking for it and has yet to find it. The non-dualist says that what I'm experiencing is made of consciousness. That is, it is the reflection of the reality that is myself. So there is something real there. Right? It doesn't exist independently of me. I am its reality. I am giving it reality. It is a reflection of my reality. It is a form, the giving expression to the formless, the emptiness and form being one. So in that sense, we both can set aside, recognize that on an everyday level, a convention in dealing with people and circumstances and stuff that you have to do, that it is all perception, right? And when I'm going to the bank or the grocery store or something like that, or I'm riding around on my bike, right? I am experiencing reality, although my mind is interpreting it in a bunch of different ways. And some of those ways I have to interpret it, right? When I see a red light, if I'm in a car, I stop. If I'm on my bike, I slow down and look around before I run it, right? I take that liberty with a bicycle. With an e-bike, it's almost like a motorcycle, so I really feel like I'm getting away with something. But you understand, I'm engaging in the conventions we've agreed on that make us function together. But there's nothing absolute about a red light that means stop. We've just all universally decided red light means stop. We could have made purple or yellow or lime, or what is that? The really bright colors, like bright lime or something. Could have made that mean stop. We all agree with it. Now it becomes stop. So there's nothing inherent in it. What is the reality of the red light? Well, it's just a red light. And what's the red light made of that makes it possible for there even to be such a thing as a red light? Well, that, in order to ask that question, you're no longer in the realm of just the conventional, everyday living, functioning in life. You're in the realm of the existential. You're now asking the deep questions. You're engaged in self-inquiry. What is the nature of being? What gives something its existence? The nature of existence itself. And again, I point you back towards that which the only thing you know for sure, the only reality you can depend upon, and that is you. It is some aspect of me. So, I think that answers your question. When you're interacting with people every day, you are interacting with them simultaneously on the level of just perception and convention, which is just really, you could call it imaginary, but it's, we all agree on some stuff, because it makes a civil society. And at the same time, on another level, you are interacting with reality, but that reality is not something distinct from or separate from yourself. And so we're forever operating on these two levels at the same time. Right? And the more you understand that the nature of it is the self made manifest, the more flexible and cooperative and malleable you are in the world of convention, because you just realize it is just a convention. And the people that come along and say, "Oh, this is absolute, and this must be the law, and this is the way it's supposed to be," you realize it's nonsense, right? And but under every circumstance, you become extremely resourceful, right? Because you're not stuck in a position, and so you let the flow of perceptions and thoughts happen without getting embroiled in it, because you're aware of the reality behind them. And the reality behind them does not need to take any strong position for or against anything. In fact, it becomes enormously wise and compassionate by recognizing that whatever this moment needs is the best thing. Do not impose an absolute on it, right? We needed a way with traffic to stop and start to make sure we didn't go running into each other. We agreed on a red light. Good. We don't have to do that. You know, in the future, different kinds of transportation, we may not need those lights. Self-driving cars, they're detecting each other to stop and the like. We don't even need lights. We don't need street signs, right? All the things we don't need them anymore. They're not an absolute. And being that kind of pliable allows you to move freely in the world. And I have to point out, also without fear. So, how's that, Andrew? Is that helpful? Trying to answer it on both the conventional and the existential level. There's John. So good seeing you in the retreat, John. Crispin, hola de Suiza. Hello from Switzerland. Good to see you. Andy B. Hello, Andy. In Malta. Oh, Susanna's in Gozo. Oops, I have somebody else in Malta as well, another student. There's Ava. Hello, Ava. Great haircut. Oh, thank you. I didn't like it at all. They did exactly what I told them not to do. Now I gotta let it grow back. I was very upset. I was very unhappy with this haircut. Yeah. You know, like one day it kind of looked good, but you know, eventually because it curls up and like, yeah. But they basically cut off about a year's worth of growth. And then I looked and went, what did you do? Ah, well. Anna, hello Anna, good to see you. John and Sheehan also in the retreat from GP from Ireland. Many thanks for the super weekend retreat. You're very welcome. There's Carland, Ireland. There's Ray. Ray. Hola to you. Good to see you. Robbie, hello from Shetland. Hello, Robbie. Peter, wonderful to be here. Again, happy Sunday to GP and everyone. Thank you, GP. You're welcome. Mary, I love your explanation, GP. It's simple, but yet hard for one like myself to release all of the accumulation of indoctrination. I find there are layers of lies upon lies. Yeah. The indoctrination of the evangelicals is one of the most horrible, grotesque things that have ever happened. And to have it have so much clout and become so pervasive and influential that the evangelical point of view has almost completely taken over all of Christianity, which of course is its downfall. At this fundamentally horrible notion of God, to the point where a lot of the ministers, I don't know a lot about, the local pastors of various churches, but the celebrity ones cannot tell the difference between God and their own ego. And conversations I've had with people, their own pastors in their own churches and in their own families, they can't tell the difference between God and their own ego. They attribute to God their hatreds, their bigotries, their ideas of what should be and what shouldn't be. And one manifested as law in the United States, as we've just seen, is just a huge step back for the rights of women, to reduce them back again to their biblical role as basically being broodmares. As for it being hard to release, don't put it in those terms, okay? Yes, the ideas that were so indoctrinated into you may continue to come, right? But you don't believe them. Now, I think in a lot of cases of people who were thoroughly indoctrinated into the fundamentalist Christianity, the evangelical thing, in addition to just the thought, there's this underlying feeling of the fear of eternal punishment. That's what gives them their sting. And so the thought comes up, And there's a very subtle fear there. Even though you don't believe the thought anymore, there's almost like something's, yeah, but what if it's true? You're screwed for eternity. I want you to just take a step back, and without the idea that it's hard for somebody like me to release it, and just look at it. Here's the little trick. You don't have to release it in the sense that you don't have to make it all go away. If you think you have to make it go away, you actually make it stronger. You turn it into a powerful entity, right, that has got a hold of you. And there is no powerful entity that has a hold of you. It is just a belief. But if I think it is, I will experience it as this relentless monster that just keeps coming and coming and coming, and I'm not free as long as it keeps coming. That's not true. You are free now and have always been. And now you just let it come. Say, okay, come. Even that feeling of fear that was ingrained in you, that fear of eternal damnation, let it come. Just watch it. Don't think that you need to get rid of that in order to be free. You don't. You are already free. That's the fact. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Because the truth is, you are already free. That's why he could make a statement like that. Right? And so you simply watch it come and go. And don't worry if there's layers and layers. It doesn't matter, right? As long as you don't make it into an enemy that can hurt you in some way, which is completely a figment of the imagination of the mind, then it can't touch you. And you just sit back and watch it. And because you are no longer intimidated by it, it will become weaker and weaker and weaker. Remember, the only power it has is the power you give it. So you need to be careful what power you're giving it. Right? And when you say something, it's hard for somebody like me to release all of that. You're giving it power. It is not hard for you to be yourself. It is not hard for the truth of you to be the truth of you. Right? It is not hard for you to know yourself. God made no rule that says it's hard for you to know me. Exactly the opposite. Right? God is not at war with herself. And so when that energy of the despotic evangelical begins to emerge, just notice it. See, there it is again. You can't hook me anymore. Right? Even if it's piercing, running throughout your entire body as sensation goes. You can't hook me anymore. Yeah. It isn't hard. It isn't hard for me to see you for what you actually are, and to see myself as to who I actually am. That can't be hard. God couldn't have made it hard. God wants you to know yourself, wants you to know her as yourself. Not as somebody else, but the most intimate of all knowledge. The essence of even what Christianity says God wanted fellowship, to be one with herself. Right? You want to know God as your very own being. And so it's not you that is asked to be released from this. It is God. And God is doing the releasing. God is yourself. And so it is God that is freeing you from that which is not you, and showing you as who you actually are. God is your very self. He who knows himself knows their Lord. I read this in the retreat this morning, and I'll read it for you guys now. It's so beautiful. It's from a 13th century Sufi mystic named Awad al-Din Balyani. Because of this, the prophet, God bless him and give him peace, said, "Whoever knows their self knows their Lord." He also said, "I knew my Lord through my Lord." What the prophet pointed out by that is that you are not you, but you are him, and there is no you. It is not that he enters into you, or that you enter into him, or that he comes out of you, or that you come out of him. That does not mean that you have being and you are qualified by this or that attribute. What is meant is that you never were and never will be. Whether through yourself or through him or in him or with him, you have neither ceased to be nor are you existent. You are him, and he is you, without any of these imperfections. If you know your existence in this way, then you know God. It is God that is taking up the liberation of you from the old indoctrination. Because you and God are one. Don't think of yourself as operating on your own. You're not. You don't even exist. You are him. Or in your case, her. Either way. Ah, thank you, Mary. It does me so much good to see people liberated from these extremely vicious and virulent ideologies. Jumped ahead on me again. Jennifer, hello Babaji, hello Jennifer. Much love and light and blessings. So glad to catch you live. So glad you're here. Mary continued, I know that which I am looking for is where I'm looking from, but get caught up with indoctrination. Yeah. Yes, just notice it as patterns of thought, right? And know who you are. Remember that you are him. You are the very God they are using to threaten you. Can you threaten God? Be that. Because that is in fact who you are. Robbie, what are your thoughts on people that say greed and violence is in human nature? Thank you. Well, it's nonsense. Even psychologically, that's been proven to not be the case. That there are elements of aggression and the like that are part of life, right? Not greed. Greed appears nowhere in nature except in these rare instances in human beings. So it's not our nature. It's educated, right? Even Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs. Starting with, safety and survival and moving all the way up to self-actualization. I mean, he himself said that the only time human beings become violent is when we fall below that level of basically surviving. When survival is guaranteed, then we can move further up the ladder. Right? Greed is an illness. It's a sickness. It's a disease. It isn't human nature. It is a disease that humans can catch. In Aboriginal cultures like Native Americans and others, when somebody had a craving for more than they really needed, it was regarded as an illness, and they were treated. They were brought in and reconnected to the community because something had gotten disconnected. It was recognized as a sickness. In our culture, it is celebrated as a great virtue, right? Matter of fact, it isn't even regarded as greed. The same people who are just greedy AF are also the same ones who claim to be Christians. And greed is one of the 7 deadly sins. Why is it deadly? Well, it kills everything. Right? You see, human nature and the human ego are not the same thing. The human ego is a reduction. It is a highly constricted version of human nature. And the more constricted it gets, the more focused on the self it gets, to the exclusion of others. It becomes the ultimate of conditional love. Me and mine above all else. And then that becomes, there's enough of those, it becomes celebrated, and then it's promoted as what we have in the West. And of course, if that greed becomes the ideal, then anything to protect it, including violence, becomes legitimate to that state of mind. It is not natural for human beings. It is an illness that humans have been infected with. Any more than measles or COVID was natural to human beings. No, it's in the environment, and if there's no immunity to it, then it is going to spread throughout the system, and eventually the immunity will either dispose of it, will become clever enough to find a way to dispose of it, or will die. And greed is a different kind of virus. It's a cultural virus. It's a social virus that we have been infected with. It is not natural to us. And at this point, our natural immunity has not, well, it has kicked in the vast majority of people. The funny thing is the vast majority of people are not greedy. It is a small number of us who as a result have sought all the power, controlling various kinds of systems and the like, and promoting this idea that somehow greed is good. They don't come right out and say greed is good. Instead they say market capitalism and laissez-faire, let the market decide, and being a billionaire is what everybody should be shooting for. It's a virus. It's a virus of the mind. There's nothing natural about it. And we all know. We know what it feels like when we do something for ourselves and what it feels like when we do something that benefits others. The difference is night and day. One feels sick. The other feels healthy and expansive, right? And so we know the difference. It's like when I get a cold, I know I've got a cold, right? The thing is that we've got this cold called greed, and we don't know we're sick yet. Right? We still think it's like the early symptoms of it, right? Where at first it starts as a euphoria, right? And eventually, as the disease develops and matures, you get sicker and sicker and sicker, and that's what we see around the world. We're seeing it. We're seeing how it destroys everything it touches, right? but because it is a disease of the mind, it's far more subtle and complex than just a disease in the body, but it's no different. So no, it's no more natural to us than any disease is, right? What's natural to us is our immunity. Mm-hmm. So, does that help you, Ravi, with that? People who say it are simply misguided. They have been indoctrinated, brainwashed into an ideology. And they just kind of they're just kind of repeating things without actually thinking about it. When you look at the effect of greed and violence, how can anybody say, well, you want to justify it, so you say, well, it's just human nature, which lets me off the hook of having to deal with it. It's morally irresponsible. But you might be kind of be cautious about saying that to somebody who says that you're a moral idiot. Even though they are. Play on, hey there. Kingdom of Heaven is truly within us. I just wish everyone could recognize that. Our shared being, that silence. Greetings to all of you from a sunny Sweden. Oh yeah, that's right. Longest day of the year, so it's like all day. Really sunny. Your recognition of it, believe it or not, is the energy throughout consciousness. Remember, you are not separate from others. You are The line, the idea of separation between yourself and others is not true. It is an illusion, which means your realization is the realization of humanity. As Buddha put it, in a little quoted quote of his, when I attained the great unparalleled enlightenment, simultaneously all beings attained the great unparalleled enlightenment. In his enlightenment, all sense of separation disappeared. He was the universe. As you are experiencing your personal realization of that Buddha knowledge, and so recognize that your realization is the realization of the whole. It is not just you waking up, but humanity, human consciousness waking up. It is not localized. That's how powerful and significant your self-realization is, and that's why self-inquiry is so important. It is the salvation of mankind from themselves. Carl, while watching the mind and the thought, I have no choice but to go into work tomorrow, it is neutralized. This then feels like a different kind of no choice. But, okay, yet, I will still have to choose if I get up and go to work in the morning. Who's making that choice? P.S. I'd rather stay at home tomorrow. Can you please tell me, why do I still have so many eyes? They are crawling out. They are crawling out of the woodwork. Very funny. Very funny. Well, no, you don't have to go to work tomorrow. You don't have to go to work ever. What you are choosing is, I would rather, in this moment, because of the options that are available to me, I would rather endure the discomfort of the job that I don't particularly like, or I'm not, it's okay, or whatever it might be, over the discomfort of not knowing where my next meal is coming from. It's a simple decision that's being made. And what's making that choice? The self doesn't care, right? In the ultimate scheme of things, if you work that job or don't work that job, it makes absolutely no difference, right? So we are working out in our own individual experience the deeper reality of what we come to see. It is the conventional operating, it is the existential operating within this field of the conventional. It is the timeless appearing within the field of time. And so there's a certain relationship with life as it is that one must come to be established in. This idea of getting the existential and then I can just kind of throw all this out is immature. You don't. You subsume it. You bring it in. You redeem life. Right? Now, on that level, it seems as if I'm making a choice, right? But in fact, it's just happening. Right? A choice is being made between choosing the lesser of two discomforts. That's the human nervous system. That's all it ever does, is choose the lesser of two discomforts, right? Which is why we're slow to change, even to grow into better places or take opportunities, because the discomfort of the unknown is greater than my current discomfort in the known. And oftentimes, that's why we sometimes have to hit rock bottom, because until it becomes less comfortable than the unknown, I will hold on to it. This is the nature of the human system. Now, just observe it. This is just the way things function. And liberation comes when you recognize that that is simply the way life is functioning. But you're bringing a new element to it, which is consciousness. And in that consciousness, because you can see it as mere functioning, that seeing it as functioning opens up other possibilities. And in those possibilities, the same mechanism will take place. Do I choose this or not? Is this the best path, or is this the best path? As there's less and less fear about the consequences, there's less and less decisions or choices, for lack of a better word, being made based on just the lesser of two evils. Because now, it doesn't matter what happens. I'm fine. Life can happen, and I remain as I am. Can you see that just kind of liberates it? Which means now, okay, I'll go into work. But you know what? Something inside me wants more. Right? I mean, part of what you're doing here at Satsang and is a satisfaction of that which wants more. And it's inevitable that as that part of you is being fed, that it's going to reach out and touch every aspect of your life, right? And it will transform your work. You don't need to have your work, you don't need to leave and go to a different job to have the work transform. Because there's nothing unpleasant about the work. There's nothing pleasant about not going to work. It's all what we make of it. And so you're not experiencing your work as it is, you're experiencing your perception of it. Shift your perception of it and watch what happens. Right? Now, notice that doesn't have any. There's no choice there. It's not I'm choosing or not choosing. The only thing I'm doing is, how am I seeing it? The nervous is making a choice based on certain assumptions. Take a step back and look at, those assumptions true. Right? What is it I don't like about this? Why don't I like it? Right? And then when you recognize that which I don't like is a perception in my mind, and allow myself to let that go, doesn't mean I have to like it. It means that I simply have to be willing to see it as it is and find out if in fact I do, or if I've just projected something on it and I've been reacting to my projecting and not what's really there. You follow? This is how you take the existential into everyday life. And so every day, every moment becomes a practice. Every moment is the meditation. What is this moment bringing to me? Remember, the first bodhisattva vow is becoming adept at distinguishing the perceptions of your own mind. Am I rejecting this work for what it is, or for what I believe it to be? Am I seeing it as something it's getting in the way of my meditation, or getting in the way of the life, or it's getting in the way? If I had a lot of money, I wouldn't have to do this kind of stuff. What if it isn't getting away at all? What if this is my guru? What if there's something here I must absolutely see, and this particular condition is the exact condition needed in order for me to see it? Suddenly, it's not work anymore. It's a conversation with God. It's a manifestation of the guru. You follow? And then, once that lesson has been absorbed, once that transformation has taken place, the work will be transformed. It won't be the same work. You may be in the same place, you may not. You won't care. It doesn't matter, because it won't be the same anymore. Right? The scales will drop from your eyes, and you will see things as they actually are. Because that's what all experience is designed to do, is to bring us to the awakening to who you really are. Once that happens, then you go beyond all choosing and not choosing. Right? Nobody chooses the bad when they see the good. We only choose the bad when we think it's the good. It's not really even a choice. We always choose the good. Period. Right? Which means it's not a choice. Right? We're just simply looking for the good. Right? So choosing becomes a bit of an illusion, right? Except we don't always understand what the good is. Right? And the only struggle we have is when we don't know which one's going to be the good, right? And I'll give you a little secret. Whichever one you choose, that's going to be the one. Tracy Lee's The I Am discourse I am listening to is very powerful as to use your own divine consciousness. Yes, the I Am is consciousness. The sense I am prior to the thought I am. And in fact, it goes even deeper, Tracy. That which is aware of even that very subtle sense of being, which is the first vibration. That is the vibration of the I am of the creation, the creator of the universe. Right? Notice that even that vibration is being witnessed by something that cannot be witnessed. That is the I am prior to even I amness. That is the absolute. That is the pure shunyata, being itself. Being without, prior to even any manifestation of being. That is the self. And so, you probably know this, but I always like to point it out, because this is the frailty of language, right? To use your own divine consciousness. Notice, and a lot of people make this mistake, I don't know if you have or not, to think of it as there's a me with a consciousness, and you've just made it two. Right? The I am would be saying my consciousness. That consciousness would be an object of mind. That's a conceptualization. You are divine consciousness. You don't have it. It didn't come to you or from you or in you or with you. It is you. You are the I am prior to even the sense of I am. Pure being. That is who you are. Indy, hey GP, what is your favorite pointer or koan? I don't have a favorite. It depends on who I'm talking to. Because my favorite is the one that's the right tool for the job, right? I don't give a massage with a hammer. Right? And I don't try to pound a nail with my hand. The right tool for the job is the favorite. You know, you'll hear me say certain phrases that I say a lot. Various kinds of maybe a koan or phrases that come up a lot, like what you are looking for is where you are looking from. But again, it comes and goes. There were times when I said that a lot. I probably said it every week for a while, and now not so much, right? So it comes and goes based on what is needed. You know, it's the same old song, but how you play it is different. When I used to play music, when I played out, you know, and I'd perform, you know, when I'd write a piece of music, and then I have to learn it, right? How I was actually going to perform it. You know, the song is one thing, the arrangement and the performance, different if I put it into a band but I was playing solo piano, you know, singer-songwriter kind of thing, and I'd have an arrangement. I have to learn it, and by the time I actually had it under my fingers, so I could just play it, I hated it. I didn't want to play it. I didn't like it. It was boring, right? But if you asked me then, what's your favorite? I said, none of them. I hate them all. But then when I would get in front of an audience and I'd play it, I would now hear the song through their ears. And now suddenly the song came alive again. And of course I play it differently every time because the audience was different every time. So, you know, one line that was really important one time would become secondary and another one become really important. One lick that would just been kind of like a throwaway lick becomes the center, right, with somebody else. So it is completely interactive, right? So whatever it is that resonates with you most in the moment, that's the right one. That is, and that will be my favorite. Ray, I guess everything will be clear and we will all be in control when we're aware of ourselves and our surroundings. We can never be free of distractions, however. The awareness of what is consuming your mind will be a returning point to the basic. There it is. Oh, I guess I missed it. To the basic, no, because that seems like it's a different thing, yes. Okay. Everything will be clear. There won't be control in the sense of us being in control of stuff, of one thing controlling another, any more than it'll be like I'm controlling my hair growing. Right? It's not being controlling. It is naturally harmonious. It's functioning all on its own. And when we see that it is the functioning of the self and not of a material universe, then we are then aware of ourselves. And ourselves and the surroundings are not two. You say we can never be free of distractions. That's not true. Once we see distraction as distraction, it ceases to have its power. And when we realize that it is simply an undisciplined focus of attention, right, and that we get, the only thing that distracts us is that whatever it comes in and asks for our attention gets our attention. We get engaged with it. We buy the story. We find it interesting. If we have no more interest in it, there's no more distraction. So yes, you can be free of distractions. The invitation to be distracted may just keep coming. It may not, right? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It just like, if the salesman keeps trying to sell me, it doesn't matter if I'm not going to buy, right? And eventually the salesman gives up, right? Because they know they're not going to get anywhere. So there can be lots of things paraded out to get your attention and distract you from whatever you happen to be focusing on in the moment. But if the thing that is asking for your attention isn't interesting to you, it won't get it. And therein lies, when the desire for freedom becomes more interesting than anything else, distraction loses its teeth. It cannot grab you any longer. And so when you're aware of what is consuming your mind, in fact, you're aware of the mind. That which is consuming the mind is the mind. Right? It is all part of this thing that we call mind. Awareness and seeing that. You don't need to control the mind. You simply need to lose interest in it. This is really important. Right? And sink back in to the awareness of mind, of distraction, of it all. Right? If I'm the awareness, then the distractions mean nothing. Devoid of all meaning, they're devoid of all interest. And that's the end of distraction. You're returning to the basic point of myself, that which is aware. Thank you, Ray. I hope I pronounced that correct, Ray. Andrew, thanks, G. I'm beginning to realize, as you say, the reality behind each moment. It's starting to get funky as I relax more and more into this new understanding. Yeah, it can be a bit disoriented because you are completely reorienting your entire relationship with experience. Experience is not something happening to you anymore. It's something emanating from you. Right? It is made of you. And therefore it's a very loving and compassionate relationship with experience. And it fosters a deep curiosity and interest in the nature of things. Right? Because it's all you're diving into is your own nature. And what could be more interesting than that? That's something to come to see. Compared to the existential inquiry into who I am, there are no distractions from that. Nothing is more interesting as we cultivate that. So, thank you, Andrew. Hello, Ursula. Mary Sykes, you're spot on. The fear I'm damned forever. Bingo! Thank you, GP. Tears are falling to your answer. Yes. That fear is installed by evangelicals deep into the nervous system. They don't even realize it because the ones that are installing it in you had it installed to them. It just evolved over time as it became more and more egocentric, more and more ambitious, more and more greedy and power hungry. And let's face it, the whole idea of eternal damnation was created by the Roman Empire to control people who were ignorant. And this has been the big conflict ever since the Enlightenment, right? When people weren't predominantly ignorant anymore, right? Those that were knowledgeable were very few, aristocracy and the clergy. They were it. They were the only ones that could read, write, know anything, have philosophy or art. But then came the Enlightenment, the printing press. My God, suddenly knowledge started being available to everybody, right? And in order for that claim to stand, it had to become increasingly aggressive, which is exactly what it did in its most aggressive form now, which is the whole Southern Baptist evangelical thing. So be present with that feeling that has been energetically installed into your body. It isn't natural to you. The fear of God is not natural. The fear of the self, there's nothing natural about that. And recognizing it as such, you can be present with it and just acknowledge that, even within Christian terms, questioning the truth of that, using the very thing that God gave us that set us apart from all the other critters cannot be against the will of God. And just really pray that in your heart. Lord, show me the way to you. Not what they said, not what I was indoctrinated into, but show me the way to you. I'll go. I'll go. The way to you cannot be through fear. Because I can't love somebody I fear. Can't do it. So all those say God loves you, love God, and fear damnation. You can't do both. If God wants my love, it must be because I have nothing to fear. And He's so damn lovable, I can't help it. Like my granddaughter, or many of the people in my life I've loved. I just can't help it. So glad, Mary, so glad. Ray, yes, that's how it is for me. The more I let go of thinking it doesn't matter, the more it takes space. Yes, it's a natural space. We don't need thinking. It can happen. You can watch it. We can even use it. Sometimes it's really valuable. If you've noticed or done some of my classes or the deeper inquiries like in the retreats, I use language in the intellect very precisely, right? To make sure that the pointers are landing, right? But then I let it go. I do not need intellect or thought to experience, right? And a lot of times it gets in the way, right? A romantic relationship, you don't need a lot of thought, right? You just want to hold hands and hug and snuggle and stuff. You don't need thoughts for that. Right? You don't need thoughts for a great meal. You don't need thought for a walk in the woods. Sitting out this morning, it's finally warm enough now. I sit by a pond not very far from my place early in the morning to meditate, to contemplate, and I just watch the tadpoles, some of which have become frogs, all the bugs, the six-legger just sliding on the top of the water, walking on water, just the plants, the ducks, the crows. I don't need thought. I don't need thoughts for that. It's just the pure bliss of experience. Thank you, Ray. Barbro in Sweden, Dale on the East Coast. I so needed to hear this, GP. Love you. Thank you. Oh, and I needed to say it, Mary, because it's so important. And I'm always surprised, you know, when I find out that people have come to me as a teacher who have come out of the fundamentalist background. And my hat's off to you guys. It is a real cultish indoctrination that is extremely difficult to get out of. And a lot of people I've seen, I don't know personally, I've seen them on YouTube and the like, who have gotten out of the fundamentalists, said, a lot of them have said, well, how did it happen? I actually read the Bible. I went, my God, this is horrible. Amazing. Robbie, GP, I don't mind intense feelings coming and going, but the default state feels like a frozen dullness in the body. Will this gradually wash out as remaining as awareness? I want to feel aliveness again. Yes, I get it. Now, but notice this. I don't mind intense feelings coming and going, but the default state feels. Now you've started to describe a feeling of a frozen dullness in the body. Now you're saying it's a default state, but I'm going to question, is it actually? Is it always there? Now, here's what can happen. That even Nisargadatta made this statement, which is really funny. He says, don't get bored with peace. The state of just quiet, where nothing's really happening, where intense feelings, they've come and they've gone, the mind will go, well, what's this? This is nothing. This is boring. What now? What next? Right? I love the way Muji in his invitation says, what next? No next. No, this is not a stepping stone to something else. Notice that frozen dullness in the body is just another feeling. And if it's just quiet, that's the mind saying, oh, it's a frozen dullness. Got to get rid of this. Notice, I've got to get rid of this. And even your question, which is a subtle way of saying I've got to get rid of this, will this gradually wash out? No. Remaining as awareness will make you completely indifferent to whatever feeling happens to be there, and to whatever thought happens to be there. That's the liberation. It is not that thought or feelings disappear. It's you just don't care anymore. You don't mind. Krishnamurti was once asked, what's your secret? To which he responded, I don't mind what happens. Simple as that. I don't mind that there's a feeling of frozen dullness in the body. Okay, I'm aware of a sense of frozen dullness in the body. But who am I that's aware of it? Is it frozen? Is it dull? And then the mind says, oh, I want to feel the aliveness. Aren't you? Right now, just put your attention in your body. Feel your feet, your hands. Feel your butt on the chair, your legs. Just scan up and down your body. Are you not feeling the aliveness? Take a breath. Yeah? After satsang, walk outside. Get the sun in your face, or cold air, or rain, whatever it might be. I've really been loving riding the bike in the rain. Right? Just let it sting. There's the aliveness. Right? Don't let the mind tell you there's not aliveness. The mind is looking for a peak experience. It's looking for the heavens parting and the like. That's not aliveness. That's something that comes and goes. The aliveness is just the manifestation of your presence. Just feel yourself right now. That's the aliveness. And prior to that, there was a state that was beyond aliveness, pure stillness, out of which the aliveness emerged, like a heartbeat pulsing, a universe created, coming back into itself. The pulsing of the sleeping Vishnu. And so you don't need to wash it out, right? If you say it's got to wash out, you've turned it into an enemy you have to get rid of. If you say it's okay, be there. There is no next. This is it. I am that. I want to feel alive. I don't need to feel alive. I don't need to feel anything. And I allow myself to feel anything. Right? Now I'm free. Now you're free. Thank you, Ravi. Hopefully that answers. If not, I'll go over this again for you, my friend. Carrie, is there any place for ethics in non-duality? Oh my God, yes. No place for laws, rules, commandments. But where does ethics evolve from? What are the ethics? What is morality? Simply how we agree to behave with one another so we don't kill each other. So we're not constantly fighting over what we believe to be scarce resources that we share. That, right? Now, I say that, right? Because at the root of all ethics is simply love. And non-duality points to the self. The one self. And the essence of love is the oneness of being, the internal consistency of the self. How can the self not delight in itself? How can it not know itself? How can every thought it has about itself not be an utter delight? Well, the universe and everything in it is God thinking about herself. How could she not take anything but the most just intense pleasure out of it? Bliss. It is the ultimate self-love manifested as love. All ethical systems, all moral systems need some kind of foundation. They have to. There has to be something. Maybe it's absurd, but the culture agrees on it. It's a reference point, and we can build something out of it. And of course, a lot of things have become absurd, right? All the rules of the Old Testament are just absurd. Many of the practices of the Abrahamic religions are absurd. Many of the practices of human sacrifice and like over the years, they're absurd, right? From our perspective now, they make sense within the context of the time. That was the ethical, moral system. That's how you were a good person. What we're looking for is the absolute standard by which we can create a ever-evolving ethical system that changes with as everything changes. For me, that is simply love. I measure everything against love. Is this the most loving thing? What is the most loving approach that can be taken right now? Of all that can happen in this moment, and I can't bring anything to the moment that isn't there, of those, which is the most loving? To me, that's the choice. That's my morality. It's really simple. And I don't mean just self-love, right? What benefits me most? What benefits us all in this moment? Right? There's ethics, right? So it very much has a place from it. It's interesting to note that sages don't become misfits. They become incredibly loving people. They don't hurt. They don't do harm. They don't criticize. They don't judge. They don't condemn. Right? They cause as little damage, leave as small a footprint as they possibly can. Why is that? If they adapted some ethical system that it needs to be imposed on others, or if they just so clearly seen the essence of life, that life being at harmony with itself, it is in love with itself, and it treats everything from that point of view. And now it's no longer ethics at all. It is simply the way it is. It is the Tao. So, does that help, Carrie? Does that answer it for you? It's a beautiful question. Lisa, so cute and lovely how you drink your mate. And your words are lovely as always too. Yeah, it's my mate. You know, when they do the icon of me when I'm dead, the late teacher GP, it'll be with my beat up REI cup and the bombilla. I don't know why I like that cup so much. It was in when I lived in New Mexico, she had it, and I just started using it. She says, "You like it, keep it." I don't know, I just got very attached to it. And if I can't find it, I don't. Aren't we funny as human beings? Lovely. Ian, hi again, GP. Very grateful for the opportunity to attend your retreat. I feel further grounded into the unconditional love and acceptance of everything, even when my mind is stormy. Much love to you and everyone else. Oh, I'm so glad you were there. I really am. Lovely. Mary, would you say coming back to true self is 0 point? I've wasted so much of my beautiful life worrying about a doctrine. You could call it a 0 point, but remember, any word we give to it is inadequate. It's the self, right? And even the word self is inadequate. And knowing the self, I can call it the center point, I can call it the still point, I can call it the 0 point, I can call it Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, I can call it pure awareness, pure consciousness, the self, the no self, shunyata, emptiness. Who cares what I call it? It's me. It's me. Knowing it is me, that's all that matters. You know, you can call me GP, you can call me Gregory, right? You can call me G, Baba G. My granddaughter calls me Baba. My son calls me Dad, right? It doesn't matter what the name is, I remain as I am. And you haven't wasted your life, right? Please never think any life has been wasted. It hasn't. Right? We think because I believed all this stuff, it kept me from doing all this stuff over here, right? And so far I've missed out on my life. But your life and the purpose of your life was to wake up. That is the purpose of this life, and every event in it serves that purpose. Once you begin to recognize your awakening, you realize that that's, of course, exactly what it was about. So it wasn't wasted at all. That's exactly what it was designed to do. We had to fall into these traps, and then something inside us awakened to the fact that it's a trap, right? And it is much better to just be filled with the gratitude of the liberation that is yours, rather than let the mind ruminate over what might have been, right? Was it Alexander Pope who wrote, of all the words of tongue and pen, the saddest are these, it might have been. Don't ruminate over it. Everything that happened had to happen. I felt like that for a while early on, you know, especially after that awakening at 19, and then a couple of years later falling into just a horrible marriage that was a total disaster, and for the next really 8 years, nothing in my life worked. And it finally came out of it. I thought, what a horrible waste. And then I realized what that grind had done to me. It had ground down my ego. Liberated as I was at 19, the ego is still very much alive. I did not understand the nature of stuff. I understood conditioning the muck. I didn't have the words conditioning yet. I mean, I saw very clearly as to how these things were working. I saw the original innocence, but I did not yet really understand the nature of the egoic mind, the subtlety of it, the pervasiveness of it. I didn't understand conditioning, and I was just completely naive about life. And that next 10 years literally ground it out of me. And for me, that's the only way it could have happened. if I had gone on to have realized all the dreams that I had wanted, I would not be sitting here in front of you all right now. And I can say that with absolute assurity. I needed that to happen. That's what it required for me to break the spell. And to recognize the severe consequences of egoic identification. Do not look nostalgically upon what might have been. This was the necessity. Right? However it has unfolded for you is exactly the way it had to unfold for you, and it could not be any other way. Accept that and say, thank you. God has been guiding me every step of the way, even when I didn't know it, even when I argued against it vigorously. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Dezo, hello from England. I think you're new. Welcome. GP, I feel your passion about when you talk about the fundamentalist movement. That's why I come to you as my transparency about this. Yes. Oh, I've seen the destruction that it can do. I've just seen the horrible things that it could do. I've seen the greed, the lust for power that has infected it. I see the effect it is having on culture. I mean, we just witnessed it with Roe versus Wade being overturned, the fundamentalists being so instrumental in making that happen. Just giving a religious justification for misogyny, bigotry, racism, and elitism. Oh, my God. my God. Yes. So, and I'm so glad you come to me about it so that you can see the utter perversion of Christ's teaching that it actually is. These are heretics. Chris Hedges refers to them as Christian fascists, and I can't think of a better term for it. And if you follow, which I occasionally do, follow some of the stuff, it has gotten increasingly insane, and I'm literally insane. The claims that these guys are making, it is batshit crazy, to use the technical psychological term. Robbie, thank you, GP. No next is a great pointer. Oh, try that. Man, that's a challenge. No next. You'll feel this impulse. I'm waiting for enlightenment. That's like waiting for Godot. Enlightenment is now or it is never. Beautiful. Carrie, thank you for your words on ethics. Yes, it was helpful. Good. Thank you, Carrie. Robbie, I did get addicted to energetic highs in the body, which I sometimes experience when very still. Chasing them is what makes me unhappy. I realize that now. So it's not the thing that makes us happy. The desire for it makes us unhappy. Happiness is already there. Yes, thank you for everything. You got it, buddy. That's it. Happiness is there. The desire for something creates an energy that makes us yearn for that, and that's the unhappiness. It blocks the experience of happiness, which is the simple, quiet contentment. Right? That's what's already there. Right? Again, you can't stop the desires from arising. You just don't identify with them. And the desire arose, right? If I do not say that desire, if I do not give meaning to a desire that arises, that it's just a desire. Desire is natural to life. All life functions on it. None of us would be here if mom and dad didn't have it, right? So there's nothing about it. And it's impersonal. The desire mom and dad had, they didn't invent that. They didn't come up with it. It's just part of life. It's just part of the functioning. So if I don't project on that anything, if it's just a desire and it's not my desire, And I don't project on it like, oh, I won't be happy unless I get it, which is a thought just to project it on it. It's just another ripple of sensation running through the system and means nothing and does not touch your happiness. Right? Then you're free. You're even free to desire. You can go ahead. You can have some of the desires. There's nothing wrong with that. Right? They're just not yours. You give in your desires every time. I assume you ate today and are breathing. You've taken drinks of water. So you've given into your desires. Right? They're just not personal. No desire is personal. Mary, I was going to say that I realized that this is a much needed part of my life to help me wake up. I'm an artist. I too want that juice to flow through the God-given talent I'm blessed with. Yes. Let it. Just recognize that it's not a talent you were given, that you are God, the source of it. And let it flow. It is not flowing through you, to you, with you, or around you. It is coming from you. You are that. Right? The inspiration that comes through, be it a teacher in satsang, a musician composing or improvising, an artist at the camera, a dancer, right? Don't think of it as something coming through me. There's no me. It is produced a form to give it expression, and the form and the energy of the expression are one. It gave rise to it. There's just this thought that the manifest form that gives expression to the unmanifest reality exists independently from that reality, which of course it can't. That's the sense of an ego, the sense of self. So what you call Mary is in fact God incarnate, God being itself, God expressing herself. And you are not Mary, you're God. And I'll get condemned by the Westboro Baptist Church for saying that, but I hope so because I'll get more views. Nothing better for ratings than to be condemned by Southern Baptists. Raz, hello Raz. Alexander Pope was a mystical poet. All are but parts of the one stupendous whole, whose body nature is, and God the soul. Oh, beautiful, yes. Yes, he was. All are but parts of one stupendous whole, whose body nature is, and God the soul. Yeah. You can feel that, can't you? You can just feel it. It's true. And of course, you are that soul. And so this is your body. Walk through it. Walk through a forest. And don't see if you can't feel that this is your body. And that your place in this body is to appreciate it. The tree can't appreciate itself. You know? I have squirrels and birds and some bunnies that scamper across my patio. As I'm sitting there in the morning, I'll watch them. And off they go. There's lots of them around here. And they can't appreciate themselves. They can't look at that and go, oh my God, what a miracle. Wow. They can't do that. I do it for them. I am their self. I am their self-appreciation. I am the rabbit getting to see itself. I'm the crow, right? The powerful, intelligent crow, right? I am the tadpole I watch scampering through the pond, and all of the plants and trees. I am all of that. I look upon my body and I am in awe of myself. Body's nature, God is the soul. Just don't forget that you are that soul. Mary, you're so right about the preachers. Thank you for being a shoulder I can rest my head on. I do not condemn you, I commend you. Yes. God is never punitive, always corrective. It's the prodigal son. I'll always love you. Dazo, I know I'm new here, but thank you, GP. Your pointings are direct and straight to the point. Thank you. Pray. Wow. Wow. Thank you, Dazo. I'm glad you're here. I try to make the pointings direct. Well, I do make the pointings direct. I'm not their author. They come through this form. I am not the form, any more than you are. Right? It is not that there's a me sitting here through which the pointings are coming. There's no me. There's only the pointings. The pointings create a form, so there is a voice. The pointings and the voice are one, and none of them is the self. They are the perfume, the manifestation. They are the perfume of a flower that you will never find the flower, for the flower is everywhere. It is the self. It is you. And on that note, since I've been going for about 4 hours straight, I will draw it to a close now. So, thank you, lovely ones, for being here with me today. Thank you for your deep questions, your honest questions. Thank you for being willing, receptive to this. I want you to recognize something, that you might, wherever you may be in your spiritual development, your spiritual path, you may be thinking of yourself as, wow, I should be further along. I'm not getting it. Boy, that guy, he gets it in a minute, and me, I'm just kind of slogging along. I want you to remember something, that you being drawn to this depth of an inquiry, right, is a matter of pure grace. Look around the world. This information is completely available. I'm here all the time. Not me and other genuine teachers. All sorts of things out on YouTube. What fraction of the people are actually being drawn to it? And yet you were. Something inside you led you there. And not only did you just hear it, you went, well, that's true. And not only just say, well, that's true, as in curiosity, intellectually curious, but wow, this matters. To the point where you've devoted your practice to it. This is rare. This is really rare. Believe me, you have all spent many lifetimes cultivating the capacity to be sitting where you're sitting now, hearing what you're hearing, so that my words don't fall on deaf ears. You've earned the right to be in that seat. So, thank you all once again. And thank you for opening your hearts to this. Through you, the whole world will be saved. That I know. Till later, everyone. Namaste.